What's going on, y'all? So, welcome back to another Monday Night Raw review. And this one is billed as the season premiere of Monday Night Raw. And with that, they kicked it off. Well, they actually kind of kicked it off with like a preemptive DX reunion where they had Shawn Michaels and them in the back joking around, and then they had Triple H right there, and he was trying to be boss Triple H, but then he got pulled into the DX shenanigans and stuff. But they officially kicked off the show with the Bloodline, in which Roman Reigns, I think it was in Brooklyn, Roman Reigns basically came out, did his whole stick, but then he started talking about how his father told him that the loudest in the room is also the weakest in the room. And he basically said, if you're part of the Bloodline, if you're the weakest, then we have a problem. And he basically called out Jay, was getting ready to confront him, but then Sami Zayn would intervene, reminded Roman Reigns that he told him that, he was no longer, Jay was no longer his problem, it was Sami Zayn's problem, and that as the honorary Uso, he would like to handle it with his permission. And Paul Heyman was like going crazy, how dare you, are you insane for interrupting the tribal chief? But then Roman Reigns was like, mm-mm. And then he walked up with Sami and Sami like he was just like a scared dog, but then he was like, you know what, you really are the honorary Uso, aren't you? He said, you know what, he's all yours. And so Sami basically tried to explain to Jay that how everybody in the Bloodline is cool, Paul Heyman, Roman, Jimmy, and even Solo. But they said the problem with Jay is that he's a hothead and pretty much not cool, and he's always around here barking, angry, I'm gonna get you, Jay. And he tried to tell him, maybe you could be just find yourself to be cool. And nobody, like Jimmy, just looked side-eyed Jay and all that type of stuff. And then Jay was basically going there, looking at Roman. Roman was like, don't look at me. He was like, you ribbing me right there, Jay. So I said, you really want to let Sami, some pretender, I think he said some pretender or something like that, because the crowd was going crazy and Sami was trying to talk and was saying, basically, you're going to allow him to tell me what to do. But before they could continue, Matt Riddle would interrupt, trying to challenge Roman Reigns for the title one more time. To which he would go to Roman by saying, the crowd even wants it. Which the crowd was chanting it, and Roman asked the crowd, should we give him one more chance right here tonight? And they basically chatted, he chatted yes, and he was like, nah. And basically said, the deal's a deal. You go to the back of the line, stay at the back of the line. And he basically said, well, since you don't want to step up, maybe one of your Bloodline members will. And this is where Jay would go. He would go Sami into stepping up against Matt Riddle. So which that match was made official for later on tonight. Then we would get the first match of the night, which was Johnny Gargano versus Austin Theory, and it was a good match. It was a good match and a good way to start off the show. It wasn't a bad match at all. They really went at each other, and it was actually befitting of a Monday Night Raw match. Because it wasn't good enough to I would buy it for a pay-per-view match, because it did. It had a little bit of build-up, but not enough to be a pay-per-view worthy match. But it was definitely good for Monday Night Raw. And Johnny Gargano will get the victory here over Austin Theory. Next, we had the match with Rey Mysterio versus Chad Gable. They did a brief recap of what happened at I was about to say SummerSlam Extreme Rules with Rey Mysterio and the whole Judgment Day, and they would come out. Rey Mysterio and Chad would have a good match. Chad, I would say the Alpha Academy here was more of a filler to the story. They really was a big part of the story, other than Rey Mysterio finally got a victory in quite some time over Chad Gable, but they was mostly there just for story purposes, as Rhea Ripley and his son Dominic would come out, but they actually did intervene this time. That's how Rey Mysterio got the victory. But afterwards, they would try to go Rey Mysterio into hitting Dom, but Rey Mysterio wouldn't do it, and he tried to leave, but they would jump him and beat him up. He would try to fight off. Well, he did fight off Finn Balor and Damian Priest. And to a degree, Dominic inadvertently, like he used, I think he like kicked Finn Balor or Damian Priest, one of them, into Dom, knocking him out the way and stuff. But the numbers game would get to him, they would beat him up, and pretty much I think they showed like when they came back for commercial break, because that would lead into the Judgment Day promo. But they showed like Rey Mysterio was sitting on the apron of the ring crying as he was being helped to the back because he was so hurt. He was hurt by the fact that his son would do this to him. But the Judgment Day will come out and talk about how basically Rey will talk about what happened at Extreme Rules, about how they beat up both Edge and Beth Phoenix, and then I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, so then they transitioned from that to talking about AJ Styles, and basically this was it. This was AJ Styles' final chance to join the Judgment Day, or basically if he refused this time, he will be officially an enemy of the Judgment Day. In doing so, AJ Styles came out and interrupting Finn Balor, I might add. But then he basically played possible by pretending that that Finn Balor was right and that he wanted to join the Judgment Day. But he mentioned some good brothers, he mentioned some brothers. But this will be the segment where we get the return of the night. As he mentioned that he needed people to watch his back, some brothers, and while Finn Balor and him hug and embrace, Finn Balor thinking that he was talking about him and the Judgment Day until the camera did catch AJ Styles' face as he was hugging him, and he was like, "I wasn't talking about you." That's the return of Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. The OC is officially back in the WWE, and the OC and AJ Styles reformed basically to go up against the Judgment Day, and it looks like they're going to be feuding for a bit until Edge and basically Beth Phoenix return to challenge both Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley. I'm just guessing on that part though, because it seems like most likely Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley gonna have to team up against Edge and Beth Phoenix somewhere down the line. As I forgot what Rhea Ripley said that what she did to Beth Phoenix was only a taste of her or what she could do. This will lead into this won't lead to anything. The next match we would get is Bayley versus Candice LeRae, and there was a backstage segment where Byron Saxton, who is now back. I thought he was still going to be part of commentary, but now both shows only have a two-man commentary with Byron Saxton now a backstage interviewer, and he basically interviewed Bayley and Dakota Kai and Io Sky about the recent setback of Bayley's, but they basically vowed to take control of the women's division and once and for all give Bayley what's rightfully hers, which is the Raw Women's Championship. I'm trying to figure out what was next. Oh yeah, then pretty much the match. And Bayley vowed to kick Candice LeRae's butt. Then now we got the match between Bayley and Candice LeRae, which was a good match. It was a good match. I enjoyed it. And Candice LeRae got to pick up the victory here over Bayley, furthering like their little thing. But even though Bayley lost here, they were the ones who stood tall as Io and Dakota start jumping helping Bayley jump Candice LeRae, to which Bianca Belair will try to come out and help. both women showed the battle wounds. Like throughout the match, Betty was just holding her ribs and her arm. She was pretty much banged up, and I think Bianca could barely run down to the ring. She was like hopping almost. But yeah, she tried to help, but they two would jump her and overpower her, leaving both her and Candice LeRae laying flat on the mat as they stood tall over both. Next, we have a squash match with Omos versus some local competitors. Same old. Omos won the match. Yeah, well, I don't think it was no deeper story. It was just Omos beat up some local competitors. But I'm guessing his after the match beatdown was probably as a way of them trying to him being more aggressive because he wanted to go fight Braun Strowman eventually. Look like they angling him Braun Strowman's next first feud to be with Omos. We would get Bobby Lashley. Oh, they also, I forgot to mention before we get to Bobby Lashley, they did do a whole they had a whole segment devoted to Bray Wyatt's whole return at Extreme Rules. Nothing, I don't need to go through it. It was just like a set. They didn't like clip show it. They just played the whole segment in full. I pretty much for what happened later on in the night. This was probably just a build up to him being on SmackDown. And I'll explain more of that in a minute. Yeah, well, we'll get the next match, which is Bobby Lashley versus Seth freaking Rollins for the United States Championship. Now, when Bobby Lashley came out, he cut a promo talking about beating up Seth Rollins for what he did, and he basically told Seth Rollins to get out here because he's ready to beat him up and give him another ass whooping just like he got on Sunday. But a beast came instead, and that beast was Brock Lesnar, who made his return, and which I wasn't shocked because it was rumored that Brock Lesnar was on his way back, and that Brock Lesnar was basically was heading to a feud with Bobby Lashley. And more on that when I talk about Bray, because it connects with the whole Bray Wyatt thing on SmackDown. But yeah, Brock Lesnar would come out and basically welcome himself back to Bobby by beating the hell out of Bobby with some F5s and German suplexes and the Kimura lock, and basically leave him like badly beaten. But as they were trying to help him to the back, Seth Rollins would make his way to the ring and basically demand that the match be started, but Bobby was too hurt. He was going to leave, but Seth Rollins grabbed the mic that was left in the ring by Bobby Lashley after his beatdown from Brock Lesnar, and goat Bobby Lashley into the match by saying he thought he was a fighting champion, that he's an insult to the United States Championship, his country, and to the Army. It basically infuriating Bobby as he assaulted the very thing that makes Bobby. As we all know, Bobby was a former Army soldier and veteran. So this all led to Bobby Lashley and them having a match, it did go long because it was just basically both men was hurt. They both Seth Rollins basically tried to hit move after move to end it, and eventually got what he wanted by hitting his signature moves and 2 curve stomps to beat Bobby Lashley and win the United States Championship. Bobby Lashley was saying in the backstage interview that this wasn't it. This wasn't the end between him and Seth Rollins. That he's going to deal with Seth Rollins, but first he's going to deal with Brock Lesnar, and that he calls Brock Lesnar out for next week's show. Then we got a Bray Wyatt promo. It's just a dark promo, basically talking about, basically saying, live who you are or be who you are, something like that. But the big thing here was it was broke by PW Insider and all the inside wrestler news outlets that Bray Wyatt is officially on SmackDown. That's why he wasn't on Raw this past Monday, and And the reason why I said Brock Lesnar ties into it, because it was basically talked about that the reason why Brock Lesnar showed up and returned on Monday Night Raw was like the USA Network's way of making up for the fact that they knew Bray Wyatt wasn't going to be on Raw per se. He was on Raw via promo, but he wasn't on Raw physically, so they wanted to have Brock Lesnar return to Raw. As it was revealed, like I said earlier, Brock Lesnar, I was about to say all other people but Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt is an official SmackDown superstar and will only appear on SmackDown and make SmackDown appearances on SmackDown for at least for now. He could make appearances on Raw, but for now it's only SmackDown. Then we get to the main event, which is Matt Riddle versus Sami Zayn, which was a good match. But the main story here was the continuance of fighting between Sami and Jay, where Jay was giving his marching orders by Roman Reigns, and the backstage problem with that Roman Reigns wanted him to make sure that they made sure Sami wins, and but Sami, and Jay get into it, Sami telling Jay that don't help me because you wanted me to handle it, right? That's what you wanted me to do. You want me to handle it? I'm handling it. Don't help me. And thus, this proves to be detrimental to Sami, as he needed his help against a fired up and momentum heavy Matt Riddle, who would basically take control of the match and end up winning the match. Whereas they could have helped though. Jay and Jimmy could have helped, but Jay was like, no. Jay kept telling his brother, no. He kept telling Jimmy, he said he got it, right? He said you're going to handle it, right? Let him handle it. He kept stopping Jimmy from helping, and thus this led to Matt Riddle winning. But that was your main event, and then they ended the show with the DX reuniting officially in the ring. They talk about how they was grateful for the 25 years of everybody watching. They even asked how many people in the arena would have watched them all enough to say that they watched them all 25 years. And Triple H even Riddle the fact that even though they got a loud reaction, some of these people ain't old enough to have watched it 25 years like me, who has watched them for 25 years. Man, I am old. Shawn Michaels, speaking of which, Shawn Michaels even said that he glad though that it is people in here old enough to say they've been watching them for 25 years, because it don't make them feel that bad now that they know there's other people there's fans that are just as old or getting there as they are. I love Road Dogg's too, where Road Dogg did his whole, he said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, New Age Outlaws present, I forgot how it goes, I'm messing it up, but he called himself instead of D Generation X, he said the Geriatric X. I was like, oh, that was funny. But yeah, they did that whole usual stick, some funny stuff, and basically ended the show by thanking the fans for being with them for 25 years, and did that whole, if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you. And pretty much it was a decent, maybe good Raw. But for me personally, I enjoyed it, so I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. Big ups. It was a decent stuff with decent returns and stuff, good story building. But other than that, nothing too big would happen. We see that Bayley and Bianca is not done with, and pretty much Judgment Day got a new faction to deal with, or a return faction. Brock Lesnar showed up, and Bray Wyatt will be on SmackDown. So yeah, that pretty much was a decent, good Raw. I had no problems with anything on the show other than the Omos match. I felt like it wasn't really needed because we already see him squash local competitors, so I feel like it's just redundant at this point. But hey, you let me know in the comments down below what you thought, and if you enjoyed this video and this review, you hit this button right there in the upper right corner for all of my WWE reviews. And if you enjoyed the video so much you want to support the channel, all you gotta do is hit that like, subscribe, share, hit that notification button, hit that thanks button, and hit that join button. Do all those great things because it helps the YouTube algorithm, and it helps me spread more to the masses and gain more tribe members. And as always, hitting you in the videos for more amazing content. But don't go anywhere. Got some more reactions coming your way. Peace.